why Russia sold Alaska to the United States in 1867. In 1867, a vast territory of more than 586,000 square miles, stretching from the Arctic to the Pacific, changed hands in one of the most unexpected land deals in history. For just $7.2 million, the Russian Empire sold Alaska to the United States. At the time, many Americans mocked it as Seward's Folly or Seward's Icebox, believing the land was nothing more than a frozen wasteland. But today, Alaska is one of the richest regions in natural resources, proving to be one of the most valuable real estate deals in history. But why did Russia sell it? Let's go back and explore the deeper reasons behind this historic decision. 1. Russia's expansion to Alaska. In the 18th century, Russian explorers like Vitus Bering and Alexei Chirikov crossed the Bering Strait, mapping out the Alaskan coast. By the 1740s, Russian traders and hunters began to settle in Alaska, drawn by the lucrative fur trade, especially sea otter pelts, which were prized in China and Europe. In 1799, Tsar Paul I granted a charter to the Russian-American Company, giving it monopoly control over trade in Alaska. For decades, Alaska provided wealth in the form of furs, but it remained sparsely populated. Only a few hundred Russians lived there, alongside thousands of indigenous peoples. While the fur trade initially made Alaska valuable, its importance began to decline by the mid-19th century. 2. The decline of the fur trade. By the 1820s and 1830s, overhunting devastated sea otter populations. The Russian-American Company, once highly profitable, was now struggling to sustain itself. Maintaining Alaska's settlements, churches, trading posts, and small forts was costly, with very little return. Food, supplies, and weapons had to be shipped thousands of miles from Siberia across the Bering Sea, or even from Russian outposts in California and Hawaii. Yes, Russia briefly held a small colony in Northern California. In short, Alaska was becoming more of a liability than an asset. 3. The Crimean War and Russia's weakness. In the Crimean War, 1853 to 1856, Russia fought Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire. The war exposed Russia's military and naval weakness. Its outdated navy had suffered heavy defeats. This made Russian leaders acutely aware, if another war broke out with Britain, Alaska would be impossible to defend. Britain controlled nearby Canada, and the Royal Navy was the most powerful fleet in the world. Alaska, with its tiny Russian population and isolated geography, could be seized easily. For Russia, the fear was clear. Better to sell Alaska now than to lose it for nothing later. 4th diplomatic strategy, keeping Britain in check. Russia's main enemy in the 19th century was Britain. To balance this, Russia sought a friendly relationship with the United States. The U.S. and Russia already shared certain sympathies. During the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, Russia supported the Union against Britain and France, who considered backing the Confederacy. Russian warships even visited American ports, symbolizing goodwill. By selling Alaska to the U.S., Russia hoped to prevent British expansion into the Pacific, strengthen ties with America, creating a diplomatic counterweight to Britain. So, the sale wasn't just about money, it was also about geopolitical strategy. 5. Financial pressures on the Russian Empire. Russia's economy was in crisis. After the Crimean War, Russia needed funds to modernize its army, navy, and infrastructure. Tsar Alexander II was undertaking major reforms, including the emancipation of the serfs in 1861, which required financial resources. Alaska, distant and unprofitable, was a convenient asset to liquidate. The sale price, $7.2 million in gold, equivalent to about $150 to $200 million today, was not enormous, but it was better than nothing. 6. The negotiations. The idea of selling Alaska was floated as early as the 1850s, but the timing wasn't right. After the Civil War ended, U.S. Secretary of State William H. Seward a passionate believer in expansionism, was eager to acquire more territory. Russian ambassador to Washington, Edward de Stuckel, skillfully negotiated with Seward. The deal was signed on March 30th, 1867 in Washington, D.C. The Senate ratified it by a narrow vote, and the U.S. paid Russia the $7.2 million. On October 18th, 1867, the Russian flag was lowered in Sitka, Alaska, and the American flag was raised. This day is still remembered in Alaska as Alaska Day. 7. Reactions at the time. Many Americans ridiculed the purchase. Critics called it Seward's folly, Seward's icebox, while Russia. They saw Alaska as a barren, frozen wasteland with little to offer. But Seward believed Alaska would bring great value to the nation's future, and history proved him right. Alaska turned out to be rich in gold and other minerals, Klondike gold rush of the 1890s. Timber and fisheries, oil and natural gas, 20th century. Strategic military importance during World War II and the Cold War. So why did Russia sell Alaska? Because by the 1860s it was too costly to maintain, too far from the Russian heartland, too vulnerable to British attack, and too tempting as a way to earn money and gain American friendship. What seemed like a foolish purchase in 1867 became one of the greatest bargains in U.S. history. Alaska would later prove vital not only for its wealth and resources, but also for America's position as a Pacific power. In the words of one historian, Russia sold a colony it could not keep, and America bought a treasure it could not lose,